Hey Google, connects Bluetooth.
Sure. Looking for paired devices.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back once again. I said to be back, here I am. And as you can see, this piece has slightly changed. So we did this little thing earlier. It looks like a bat, I know. But essentially what we did earlier was we took Galactus, the main big bad of the new Fantastic Four movie, and essentially draconified him bit by bit, trying to make a sort of symmetrical bit. He's eating a planet, he's grabbing a planet with his sort of like xenomorph extra hand in the mouth, tongue. You've got these massive horns which like represent his helmet. The really angry eyes. They've got all these other horns here. We've got the massive mouth which stretches up all the way around so we can eat giant planets, even whole galaxies maybe. Maybe this version of Galactus is the devourer of like universes rather than just worlds, and possibly feeds on, I don't know, like magic power source or magic planets. And the whole thing here, I took a bit of creative liberty. So we're doing the whole Fantastic Four thing because of the movies coming out. I really need to go see it. It looks amazing. But fitting with the theme of this, draconifying Galactus, I haven't done something like this in fucking ages, and I really, really wanted to. Draconifying Galactus, right? Doing it in this insane sort of detail. This is like a more refined version of one of my styles, and it's one of the ones I enjoy the most because it is creatures, which is something I enjoy drawing like a massive lot. The problem with the Fantastic Four is that they are people essentially, and I'm okay drawing people, but I'm not the best at it. And to fit with the theme of Galactus and this monstrous thing, I thought, why not take each member of the Fantastic Four and turn them into some sort of D&D creature or race. So Ben Grimm, obviously, we've kind of left as the same thing, because he's already somewhat of a stone golem, in a way, made up of many different sort of rocks, or maybe it's like a rock giant or something. Now, Sue Storm, or the Invisible Woman, Johnny's sister, is a bit of like a wraith. Maybe they're maybe she's part of the Lantern Folk. Basically, the Lantern Folk and the wraiths, they're semi-transparent. I was going to do an Argonian, which is like a lizard, and they can make their skin go invisible, but it's going to be a bit too hard to draw. We've actually even got the Fantastic Four logo on her back here, as you can just see. And then if we move over this way, we've got Reed Richards and Johnny Storm. So Reed Richards, I've done as more of like a gelatinous slime creature, which can stretch its body to a limit, obviously, as Reed Richards can. And it can also somewhat expand its mass, make like any sort of attachments it needs out of its body, just as Reed Richards can with his hands. He can like turn them into keys. He's essentially like Plastic Man from DC. They're the parallels, obviously. And then Johnny Storm over here, and actually I should just mention Reed Richards, the one we've done, because he's like this gelatinous slime creature can stretch itself. Inside this gelatinous thing, which is probably going to be blue because Fantastic Four colours, we've actually done a skull, a spine, and a pelvis, and his legs are basically going to be down here somewhere off the page. Because the point of this is that as the sort of slime, gelatinous, gelatin sort of form stretches, the bones get further apart, but there's no pain in it because he's able to stretch essentially. This version of Mr. Fantastic, or Reed Richards, his bones don't stretch with the rest of his body. They stay in place while the rest of his body stretches. I also like to think that this like version of Reed Richards has some sort of regenerative capability. Like he can chop himself in half and put himself back together because he's literally made of like gelatinous slime. And then for Johnny Storm, I kind of wanted to stick with like the fire element, obviously. The others, like Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm, the two that are kind of easier to do. Because within the realms of like fantasy and D&D and all of that, there is something called a fire elemental. There's also fire wraiths. There's flame golems. There's like a final form for like a fire Atari, a bit like what what's her name? If anyone's watched Vox Machina, then it's what Keelan turns into when she visits the fire Atari. I know, it's amazing, right? And the best part about this is, so the whole grayscale challenge, what's that about, essentially? So grayscale is a way of colouring on digital. And essentially what you do is you colour in values with greys, blacks and whites on a thin opacity layer under the layer of your drawing, so that when you put colour underneath the grayscale in that selected area, it automatically kind of does the contrast of colour for you. And then on top of that colour, but still underneath the grayscale, you can put different variations and tones. It adds just so much detail to a piece. I've seen it done a bunch of times. I wanted to try it specifically with this more monstrous style to see how it'd work, and see which of my kind of various ways of doing stuff, because this is just one of them, obviously, it works with best. And I'm probably not going to do it on every single piece, because with like cartoony stuff probably doesn't work as well, but with more like things like this, where it's like dragons and these super detailed pieces, it probably will work a lot better. And so if you're wondering about all the big blank space as well, basically, I know how to paint galaxies on digital, and we're going to do this as like a galaxy, or maybe Galactus is coming out of a giant black hole. I've just done his shoulders up here and his sort of like chest area as a bit of like reference for where he's going to be leaning out. So we're not going to do the full body, otherwise it's going to be too much to colour. And I don't know if I'm going to get this all done this evening, which is why I'm going to be streaming on Thursday as well to maybe get the colouring done. I think I'm just going to do the grayscale this evening, pick my colours based on the Fantastic Four themselves, and then go ahead and colour it on Thursday probably. But yeah, so Johnny Storm, we've got like a fire elemental, and it's almost, if anyone's ever watched Ben 10, it's a massive part of my childhood, probably also why I love creatures and monsters so much. I think Upgrade was always my favourite alien, just because of like the ability to shapeshift has always been something that has appealed to me. And Ben 10 is like a superhero, essentially just shapeshifts into all these different aliens. But this is kind of a bit like Heat Blast and Swamp Fire mixed together. It's sort of like a rocky skeletal thing that's held together by this telepathic, almost sentient flame. Rather than being a living being, it's more of like a sentient collection of fire that can also just dissipate. But I'm kind of to put lore behind it, because obviously Sue's a sort of like wraith in this. Maybe instead of getting hit by cosmic rays, they got, I don't know, like cursed, or they all had different incidents, but they all came together and started to like protect the world against this Galactus being that's coming along. So the thing with Johnny Storm, maybe, I don't know, Johnny died at some point during some sort of tragic event in which there was fire involved, and for some odd reason, within that building there was also, or within that tent there was also some magical properties, and what that does is it transfers his consciousness into the flame, and he becomes like a living flame with this almost skeletal, sort of like obsidian rock, very sort of skinny thing, which he can actually like throw out of the flame. Obviously, if he throws out, he does like miss a limb, but that limb can obviously keep going as like a flaming ball. Now, obviously, he can retract it back as well and stuff like that. He can absorb fire, he can shoot fire, he can regenerate fire. Basically, he has all control over heat. He's essentially a fire elemental. Reed Richards, as I said, I like to think he has like capabilities of regeneration in some way, shape or form. Like if he gets cut in half, he can put himself back together because he's literally just gelatinous sort of goo. He can form like a venom symbiote. He can form like amalgamations of stuff out of the slime, but it's limited because obviously he only has a certain mass that he can sort of stretch to. And I like to think he can also somewhat shapeshift a bit as well, like to take different forms. Obviously his bones stay like human. Sue obviously can turn invisible like she can usually. I like to think she can also use her force fields and stuff, create like physical sort of shadow objects that become like solid matter. And then on top of that, I'd like to think that she can somewhat pass through walls and almost like a ghost essentially, literally, or like a wraith, or maybe go into like a different realm where she can talk to other wraiths and the dead and stuff like that. Now Ben Grimm, obviously being as he is already, is kind of like a stone golem. They're very strong, very tough, and different to the comics, this one doesn't have actually like an underlayer of flesh. No, this Ben Grimm, there is actually a comic that kind of ties into what I'm going to explain now. So basically, this Ben Grimm, this sort of stone golem, this very rare material golem, it has basically pure energy inside. And he can turn from pure energy to this rocky form as like an outer shell for like extra strength if he needs it. But coming out of that shell, he can use Energy Blast, which is actually a reference to a comic, which that does happen. He unlocks like an ultimate true form, and he can basically switch between rock and this sort of like purple energy stuff. And he has all his powers and more. He can phase through objects, a bit like Vision. He doesn't have like telepathy, but he can obviously move stuff with telekinetic powers as well. It's quite cool. But the main thing about this, yeah, so this is basically just a template for the digital stuff, which I've actually loaded up onto the computer already. So what I'm going to do now is basically grab a laptop, get drawing, and yeah. And then, like I said, if we run out of time, I'll have to colour it on Thursday, or maybe I'll time-lapse it. And also, for anyone who missed it earlier, I went ahead and essentially did some colouring for some dragons, which is the HTDYD projects I've been doing recently as well. Because I'm starting to dive back into pop culture, but mainly more the stuff that, well, impacted me as a child, or kind of, it's like a crucial thing in my childhood, or like stuff like that. And movies that are coming out that I would also like to go see, bits like that, essentially. And yeah, it's going really well so far, and I'm loving how all the pieces are turning out. I know. Oh, and obviously, stay for the stream, or you can check out socials. But all of the dragons I drew before, they're on my socials, which I think are linked over here. Well, it should be anyway. So yeah, feel free at any point to do that. I'm just gonna have to come out of Stream Manager real quick, just to too close to the thing. Just need to make sure that's at an angle where it's not gonna like. Oh no, there's a bunch of people in here. Oh, hello. I didn't look at view again. Okay, damn, we've got a bunch of people in here. Yeah, so basically grayscaling Fantastic Four as D&D creatures is going to be awesome. Wait, who followed? We got a new follow. Who followed? I need to go back into Stream Manager. Give me a second here. Oh my god, I have something for you as well. For the person who just followed, I literally made, well, no, I got someone to make cards for me the other day, a little friend of mine. That's for you. Wait, let me just pull this out. It's going to be annoying, so I just put the camera back afterwards. But yeah, whoever just followed, that is for you. There we go. I should probably have like a little sound I can play at some point as well. And the whole idea of those little cards is that I have a little starting one, I have a little like BRB one. Is because I do a lot of like IRL art streams. I can't stream my laptop because it just lags way too much, and the experience is just not pleasurable. So I have to do it like this, filming on an iPad of a laptop screen, which is a bit annoying. And obviously it can get a bit annoying when it gets dark as well, because the quality does go down a bit. But aside from that, yeah, having cards on the side there is super duper helpful, because it obviously just allows me to interact with you guys a lot more. So yeah, and I've actually got the picture of the thing here. Now, how we're going to do this is there's something in Photoshop and Krita, which is what I use, which is basically essentially free Photoshop, and you don't need internet to use it or save stuff on it. Basically, there's something called Alpha Converter in it, and it just basically takes out all the white background, or like whatever color you assign the Alpha Converter to. It's basically like a chroma key in a way. Oh, and actually, tell you what, I can show you the dragons now. These are the projects we finished off earlier. So for the sort of live action HTDYD movie that came out, I went ahead and did a color challenge, which was like restricted to a certain number of colors with a certain number of hues. This was 3 colors with 3 separate hues. I think we got orange, purple, and teal. That was Hook Fang. Then we also did a Bath and Belch one. This is probably my favorite. It looks a lot like the style of the TMNT Mutant Mayhem movie, which I absolutely adore. So I think that turned out extremely awesome. I'm very, very pleased with it. I didn't even know I could draw like this as well, which is crazy. The colour complexion is insane, and I love the look on this dragon's face as well. But yeah, this is Bath and Belch, the twins dragon, and then I finally did a toothless one as well. Now this one felt a bit thermal, a bit sort of galactic, almost kind of cosmic in a way, because I only had 5 very bright colours, and all I had to do was like blend them into each other. I did this little sort of loop in the middle just to add a bit of 3D effects, and obviously a bit of space between layers, and then just put a glow around Toothless as well. And yeah, that was pretty much it. I've got a little plasma blast up here, as you can see, but all of these are on my socials in much better quality, because obviously the camera isn't picking it up so well because I'm filming a laptop screen. But yeah, my socials are linked here, so if you want to check them out after stream or whenever, then feel free. But yeah, we're going to start a new file, and we're going to get on with this Fantastic Four thing. Hopefully you can get as much done as we want. So, right, I need to make this not a square, and rather 1920 by 1080. So, 1920 by 1080 should be an A3. Basically 16 by 9, which is the usual size for like a screen, essentially. 90% by 1080. There we go. Is it 19 by 20 by 12, or is it 1280? Is it 1080 or 1280? I can't remember. Is it? Oh no, people left. Create. I know it's 1920 by 1280. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I got the measurements wrong. Yeah, I just pop in stream measure. I need to thank whoever followed. Was it you, Smooth Hunter? I don't know. I need to. Where is it? No, that's not the right thing. Is it gonna load? Are you gonna load? Hi, Moose Hunter. Thanks for the follow, and obviously, yeah, you saw on the card as well. Welcome to, I guess, the CCU. Basically, the CCU is the universe I'm building, and everyone that kind of follows, I guess, becomes part of that. They have a special place in it, and everything that I've basically designed since the start of the channel has gone into it. Even these creatures, I know they're like Fantastic Four variants, but because they're my own sort of stuffs, they can somewhat fit into this universe in a way. And what I want to do at some point is even make like a little animation series with the CCU in it, and just like explore narrative and stories, because I'm doing animation at uni. Part of that is narrative, obviously, so it could be very, very fun. Right, I'm just going to try this camera angle. Perfect. That's probably a bit better. There we go. Then we grab our pen, and we're just going to import the image, and hopefully this works all well. Perfecto. Right, it hasn't taken too much storage as well, which is perfect. We just stretch this down to here. Awesome. And then all we said, just like I said, all we're going to do is basically chroma key this into blocking out all the white. Now it does get a bit darker and slightly graining over here. So what we can actually do is just select that and erase it ourselves. Manually erasing does take a bit longer, but it's it'll all be worth it. So if we just go into just, and then it's, I don't remember where it is now, don't I? What did I say it was? It was alpha convert thing. Alpha. Where's alpha? Alpha. I forgot how to do alpha. Fucking goddammit. Image. Convert image color space. No, that's not what I want. These colors to alpha. Oh, here we go. Color. Why would it not be in color? Right, colors to alpha. There we go. And now you can see it's actually taken out all the background for us already. Now it isn't quite the right colour because there is a bit of grey over here, but to be honest that actually shouldn't really matter because that's in the galaxy bit. So yeah, what colour to alpha does on Krita, I think it's on Adobe Photoshop, whatever you use, there should be some kind of like colour to alpha or chroma key in it. Basically, if you select the right colour of the background or whatever thing you want to take out of like a solid chunk of that colour, it will basically just disapparate it. And obviously you can heighten this to a full extent, to the point where it does obviously start to take a toll on some other bits. We're going to keep it at 100 because I don't want it to destroy the rest of the drawing. I want to kind of keep as much of this as I can. Okay, cool. And now what we're going to do is go ahead and grayscale this. And I've never done this before, so it could go horribly wrong, but I don't know. So that's why we test stuff. Also, going to put some music back on because it gets me in the mood. I've also got a great playlist here, which is awesome. And I found my speaker as well, which means that music can play a lot louder and more clearly on stream. Hopefully, anyway. It's not just blasting through and the audio is going to be horrible and stuff like that. If we turn this off real quick, does that make the screen better? No, it makes it worse. Okay. I can't really do anything about that. There we go, that's a bit clearer. Yeah, you can see like the full scale of this thing now. And you can just see that in every single sort of area, all the white is gone. So what we're going to do is basically go ahead and, just like I said before, draw under this thing. But the way we're going to do it is actually by decreasing the opacity on this layer, making a new one, shoving it underneath, and then doing the grayscale. almost like we're drawing over the top, so we can actually see where it is. And then once we've done the grayscale, we're actually going to lower the opacity on that as well, even though we're doing it with a low opacity brush. Well, actually, tell you what, we'll do it with full opacity, and then we'll just lower the opacity as we kind of apply the colour afterwards. And I'm going to use my favourite brush as well, which is this sort of like sketchy one here. Bam, 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 bam. Cool. So obviously we need to pick a light source, and I'm thinking, because this is a planet exploding and so is this, we've got two separate light sources here. This one's going to be mainly inside the mouth, so I might do the light source coming from here. And one key thing you can do with characters, especially things like this, is have the colour of the light be slightly different to change the mood. So planets exploding, maybe it's got like a blue core, because they are the Fantastic Four. Blue is their main colour. And so yeah, obviously we're going to try to keep within the colours of the actual characters themselves. So these obviously are usually humans, which does make this a bit hard, but I'm going to try and make the blue slime because his suit, he has like a full body stretchy suit. Usually Mr. Fantastic. Oh hey, welcome in. I'm doing basically Fantastic Four as D&D creatures. I've got Galactus as this giant sort of dragon thing. We're going to grayscale it and hopefully colour it on Thursday. I'm just talking about colours now and just sort of palettes. Johnny is going to stay as like this fiery orange thing. Sue will probably go with like a white sort of wraith thing. So the grayscale might actually be the only colour we need for her. And yeah, so if we go basically in here like this, all we're going to do is just decrease the brush size. I just need to remember pick a light source. So so what we're going to do is make another layer just as a little reminder to ourselves, and we're going to make this red so it's nice and bright. And what we're going to do is make it so that we'll have this planet be dark because it's going to be somewhat inside the black hole. This thing here is going to be the light source. Right, and then so because of that, the light is going to be sort of flowing out this way and that way, shining on all of them at an angle. And that's what you've got to remember. It's not always, the light's not going to be round here as well, so the shadows have almost got a curve round the back of Ben. And Johnny, it's a bit harder because he himself is somewhat a light source, so we've actually got a secondary one coming off of Johnny, almost hitting Reed over this way. And we could even change the colour of the fire because of the planetary explosion could be such an overwhelming light source that it could just sort of alter the biology of that. But then again, we're going to have Johnny's light somewhat impacting Mr. Fantastic just here like this. And then, yeah, so that should be pretty much all the light source done. And obviously his shadows are going to be, like I said, needs to be curved around this bit. And I'm just making this as a visual diagram for myself so that when it comes to grayscaling, I can use this as like a little helpy guider thing.
How do you withdraw from your pension? Through
and so what we're going to do there is then put that on that underlayer, make this really dull,
and take control of your retirement today.
And then go to the grayscale layer. And a grayscale? Grayscale. By the power of grayscale, I have the power! No. Okay, right, so now we're just going to get our colours and get going to work. I think I'm probably going to start with the shadows and then work up with the highlights. Cool. So if we just go in here, like this. And again, because of where the light is, it's going to just start to... And obviously, we can use pressure sensitivity on this, which I've got turned on. Because the harder you press, the darker the thing's going to be, whereas the lighter you press, the lighter it's going to be. So the shadow can still be a bit lighter, because even though the light's not like all the way around the back here, it is somewhat still reaching this area, because it's almost shining over the top from the other rocks. Because these rocks that Ben is made of, or this Ben is made of anyway, are going to be somewhat shiny. Not like glistening like gold or rubies or silver or anything, but they are going to be somewhat shiny in some sort of factor. So that's going to need to be accounted for. but these ones around here, they need a bit more of a sort of thick coating. And now this thing here is actually going to have a bit of highlight on there. And then these top ones, like I said, obviously where they're facing, there's probably going to be some highlight there and also here as well. And it is very basically just simple adding shadows and highlights before you add the colour. Then obviously lowering the opacity and putting the colour underneath. And like I said, it's something I always wanted to try, so we might as well. And see how it turns out.
This little thing helped me.
I guess this is less of a challenge and more of just like a fun little experiment. But also alongside that, I wanted to do like a big old piece as well.
Supported and helps during tough times. The Pandy uses AI-powered motion.
And obviously, the more times you do this, it's going to work better as well. Of course, practice does work, guys. Just remember that. And then obviously the shadows are so incredibly light here, so we're actually going to get an even lighter grey just to sit over on this bit here, and then start to even get some of these highlights in with the lighter sort of grey sources just there. And it's almost going to be very, very bright here. And I'm pretty sure this is what concept artists use as a technique as well, grayscale, to kind of emphasize color. Because what you'll notice a lot when it comes to games design, I'll notice a lot when it comes to character design and games design, a lot of the time you'll see the character in grey first before they're in their fully fledged color, and it's kind of to get that light source first, that sort of definition, before like the full enactment of the thing. If we go darker again, just a tiny bit, just do this tiny bit around here, and you can already see how that is somewhat taking effect. If we just take that layer off, you can kind of already see, like, imagine this but saturated. This kind of reminds me of like a manga a bit, but you can already see, just because of how the light is, it makes the rocks look 3D, and it's almost like a pile. It's like a pile of rocks, or like a texture. And then what we can do is grab an even lighter color, or just basically white, and just add that on the very front faces of some of these. Maybe a bit lighter around there, and then a tiny bit here too. And just remembering where our light is, not adding this to every single face, because obviously that is overkill and it defeats the purpose of the whole kind of lighting bit. But that bit can have it, and that bit can have it as well. And now we've got this kind of thing here, and already it's working. And if we even get, yeah, so you can see the difference instantly. It is basically just color variations, but with greys and blacks. And so now if we go back to here and up this, you should see that those greys are in there. And we can do a little color example first, obviously, as well. If we go to here and I layer, go in here, decrease that opacity a bit, and then say, yeah, because Ben Grimm's usually like this orangey colour, like this. If we basically just grab that orange and shove it under all of this, you can see that it automatically kind of already gives that shadow effect, and where it's lighter, that kind of shines through already. And obviously you can sort of play around with the intensity of the grayscale just to give it a bit more effect. So that'll probably be better there.
But where I went next is classified.
And if we get rid of the outer edges like this,
I've come a long way.
obviously it does start to set in a bit more.
Who's never officially been anywhere.
And kind of for the detailed style that we've gone for, this should work a lot better. Obviously this isn't a finished product yet, and it's still in the working stage, but this is kind of the base sort of look for what it's going to turn out like. And it already kind of looks a bit more I guess 3D and professional in some way. And then, like I said, even underneath it, even though you've got these light bits anyway, what you can go ahead and do is add you can decrease the grayscale a bit and add even a bit more kind of orange variations. You can get some more browny bits and just add it down here, even though there's shadows there anyway, just to kind of really emphasize the 3D effect of this whole thing. And there we go. Wicked. I'd probably say about 69 for the grayscale probably works best for all of these. But yeah, you can kind of see how that works. Obviously, it's not all the colour, but a little example there of how this is going to turn out. And like I said, I'm really excited. So we're just going to grayscale the rest of this. Sue is going to be a tiny bit harder to do because obviously it's basically just smoke. But I guess also we can apply a much lighter force to it because of the light that's coming in. So even still when you're doing clouds and stuff, you have a darker and a lighter side, which is what's going to come in with this kind of bit here. And obviously this jacket at the back is going to be a lot darker as well because of where the lighting is. But yeah, if we basically go like this. So it's very much going to be these colours as well, but maybe with slight tints of blue, a tiny bit of red too. But yeah, this jacket where it's at the back, because it's slightly hidden, the shadows can be a bit more intense. Just like that. Like I said, it is pretty much just shadows and highlights all the way through. Oh, you're very welcome. I do get quite passionate when it comes to talking about art and stuff, but yeah, I guess I do kind of explain it quite well. I will often like go off on tangents and bits and repeat words by accident, but I mean, yeah, if you can understand what's going on, then that's wonderful and that's great. And obviously a big part of this as well, I guess, is feedback, and yeah, so I'm glad that you understand what's going on, and this is very easy to kind of grasp, even with English not being your first language. That's awesome. Cool. Right, that is Sue done. Sue was pretty easy to do. Galactus is going to be the detailed one, I must admit. Right, it's time to get on to read. Again, we're going to start with the darker bits and then get in with the other bits. So, darker bits down here. Now, slime is probably going to be a bit harder to do because of the properties of it. I've drawn slime before and it is pretty much just the same as water when it comes to shading. It's a lot more blended kind of stuff. And these sort of bubbles here as well that are just floating around. Obviously we've got to play with the form as well, so we're going to start curving some of this shadow too. already see that there is some giving that 3D form. I do just want to say, sorry if I miss messages sometimes. I get really dragged into the whole art process and it, yeah. Okay. Big light source from over there, from like where Galactus is. And then a tiny bit of a light source over here where Johnny is as well, obviously. Cool, right, that is... Actually, we need to do this but read as well. That is read done. Now we just need to do Johnny. Now Johnny is going to be a bit like Sue, a bit of a challenge because fire doesn't really abide by the laws of shadows. It just gets brighter on the outside and then darker as it goes inwards. Like the colours get more, the colours themselves get less saturated as it goes inwards. Well, at least that's how it's drawn. So Johnny essentially is pretty much just going to be all white. In a way. Because of his fire on his sort of like obsidian skin as well. Because of his fire on his obsidian skin, obviously that brings off light sources too, so it's going to be quite extreme on the sort of obsidian plating that's within his body. So Johnny is going to be a bit of an interesting one to colour, I must admit, and so is Sue. But Reed and the Thing, or Ben Grimm, are going to be a bit easier. I prefer saying Ben Grimm; it adds a bit more like humanity to it. But I guess on these outer flames, what we can do is just really give a bit more of that kind of spark effect. Yeah, because if you add a bit more of like an outline using this sort of white flame here, like that. There we go. And you can kind of also just add tiny bits around there like that. Awesome. So that is pretty much a fantastic fall done in terms of grayscale. And now we just need to do Galactus, which is going to be fucking hell. Jeez. How long, what's the time? Oh, it's gone midnight. Right, tell you what. I will go for another... We'll go until an hour, which would be around midnight, and then we'll probably cut stream there. And then I'll be back on Thursday to do the rest of Galactus and colour everything as well. And then do like the Galaxy background too, obviously as well. So yeah, about another like 13 minutes, and then we'll cut it there, and I'll be back on Thursday. Also, the music's gone off. Sorry about that. There you go. That's better. Oh, that's good for the Galactus as well. Like that theme, I like that. Right, so we're probably going to start with the... Tell you what, we'll start from the centre and build outwards. So obviously a lot of this is going to be kind of... very white for where the light stuff is. As white starts to sort of fade as we go a bit further out. But even so on the teeth, it's this bright, bright colour. Oh, thanks for... Someone dropped a follow. I didn't even notice. Goddamn. Right, I need to go back. I need to stay in... Davios, thanks for the follow. Oh, I've got a little thing for you as well, if you're still here. Davios, thanks for the follow. I've got that little thing there too, if that's going to show up properly. That's going to be a bit hard to see, isn't it? I'm just going to take this camera out and put it back. But yeah, there we go. That's for you, Davios. Thank you very much. Welcome to the CCU. You're officially part of it now, I guess. Where's the best way to hold that? Is it there? I need to be able to read that properly. It just says thanks for the follow and welcome to the CCU. Little dragons on it as well. Cool, but yeah, thank you so much for the follow. Great, wonderful, lovely to have you here as well, along with all the other great people who are here already. Yeah, as you can see, we're just grayscaling a giant Galactus dragon, and we've got the Fantastic Four as these sort of D&D creatures. And then, yeah, like I said, we're gonna cut stream at an hour, so about 10 more minutes, and then we're gonna leave stream there, and I'll be back on Thursday to colour all this with the grayscale in place. Right, so now what I'm actually gonna do is the eyes are gonna become very white as well, because they're not essentially gonna be sources for light, but the pupils I want to really stand out. There we go, that looks awesome. And actually what we can do is you can just... And this is how people make monsters look like so terrifying when it comes to stuff as well. Grayscale is such an important thing if you're trying to do horror, I think. Or from what I've seen anyway. And what I've experimented with a tiny bit before. Grayscale is such an important thing for when it comes to horror art. Because the difference between a piece of horror art and just normal art, I feel like it's heavily dependent on lighting. You could do like a really twisted looking face with, I don't know, like blood and gore and stuff gashing out. But the thing that changes that from something that genuinely scares you to just like Titan eating his son, or Jupiter eating his son, that painting, the thing that changes it is the lighting, I feel. Lighting is so important when it comes to drawing, because it can just change the mood massively. And again, depending on the colour of your lighting, so say blue, it can be very sort of kind of sad or down or kind of almost depressed or very sort of stone cold hearted, whereas like a warm yellow can invoke sort of happiness and a bit more kind of energy, or maybe this sort of like big sort of angry explosion sort of type thing, whereas green light is like mysterious and sciencey and sci-fi and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different routes you can go down with light, and it makes such an impact on art, as I've learned over the last couple hours and, well, years as well. And I've still got so much ahead of me too. I massively enjoy drawing this as well. This is going to look sick when it's done. Even in grayscale, it also, even now, it looks fucking awesome. So if the white goes there, then what we're going to need to do is, because obviously that's still our light source, we're going to put a bit of this on the tongue, essentially. And the centre is probably going to carry it a bit more because it's got a bit of a divot. Whereas these bits are going to start to fade out as we go down. Like that. Just got to think about the physics of it really as well. It is all basically just physics. That starts to fade and fade and fade just like that. Awesome. Lower the opacity a bunch more. And what we can actually start doing is grabbing our darker stuff and applying that to the bottom of the tongue here as well. In these specific sort of areas. Just like that. And then even in the middle of the tongue. So these darker bits are going to be kind of these bits down here where the tongue is like folded away from the light. And then we're just going to have a bit more of like a silver tongue bit. Still come down here, still quite light but not as strong, because there's obviously still a bit of that light coming through from the planet. And then obviously over on this one, it's going to be a bit lighter too, because we've got another planet exploding here. This one's going to have all white coming off of it. And again, all that's going to do is basically work its way up and then just start fading out at this point here. All of this is going to be slightly brighter but not as bright. And all we're going to do is just fade that with a bit more grey there.
Boots is your destination for your travel health needs. From travel vaccination.
Cool, like that. Awesome. And then all we're going to do is just go up here and sort of figure this out. So the roof of the mouth is going to somewhat block some of this light if you think about it, because that planet is fully inside the mouth. So light will still get through the teeth, but it won't get through as much, which means these horns up here do need a bit of a light dose, but not as much as the others. So probably something like that, which means the darkness is actually going to start to get to the top of this thing as well, whereas the Fantastic Four, it's a bit of inverted. So the light's going to sort of come here and then fade out of existence because it's reached that bit and then got nowhere else to go. And this is a beautiful thing about pressure sensitivity. It's an option you can turn on and off if you've got a pen. Any sort of tablet will work with this. There's always a pressure sensitivity button when you're drawing. If you turn it on, the lighter, so the harder you press with a stroke, the more opaque, but the lighter you press, the less opaque it is, which is perfect for blending stuff, especially with colours. Now, you can obviously do gradients with the gradient tool for like more flat stuff. The way that I do gradients is I take the airbrush tool and basically just blend in with layer opacity. And also brush pressure as well. So yeah. Looking sick. And again, so there's going to be a tiny bit of light here. but it's not going to escape all the way up the horns. It is somewhat going to leave around this point here, where it's always going to start fading out of a point. Just like that. Starts to fade out of the view of stuff. Oh, it's a bit too much. And obviously if it gets too hard, you can just obviously lower the opacity until that basically just runs out of juice up that way. Same up this side. Much more kind of opaque here. Bits there where it's kind of more seen to the mouth. Got a bit here as well, and then basically that just will gradually disappear as this heads upwards. There we go, cool. And then with the darker bits, actually still we need to do a tiny bit of light around the eyes too, so we can lower the opacity. And all this is going to do is just add a bit of... There we go.
The Pandy uses AI-powered motion sensors that gently react to your touch, so when you cuddle it, it actually cuddles back. It's the kind of gift your girl...
And then all we need to do is go ahead and just add the darker tones everywhere, obviously. So I'm getting major Smaug vibes from this face as well. Freaking awesome. And then we do, yeah, like I said, all we're going to do is use the darker tones on top this time, because the light doesn't quite reach up to here, because it begins to fade out because of where the light source actually is. And so this actually somewhat rests on top instead of below. And that's the thing about having a central light source with something like this. It can be on top and below. And you know what? There you go. And that is basically the full force of what grayscale does. It is literally just shadows and highlights. But that, as you can see, has just added so much kind of 3D effects. Basic lighting changes everything, in my opinion, when it comes to a drawing. So say if we were, again, to go ahead and just add like a color layer underneath here. Actually, I'm going to save this real quick as well, because it's going to die in a minute, my laptop. GV F4 D and T. Save. What we can do is just come in with a layer here, and again we can just lower the opacity of the grayscale a bit. Come in with this layer, and all we're going to do is just so Galactus is obviously like quite purple and magenta and bits. I'm just going to grab a sort of duller magenta colour, and and essentially just go under like this. And you can see that because of where we put the stuff, it kind of dulls and lightens certain bits up. And that is essentially how this whole thing is going to work. But, you know what? Let's leave the colouring layer for now. That's for next time. Let's just stare into the glory of this marvel right here. This lighting effect is insane. You know what I'm going to do is even just save a screenshot of this before we even do anything. I know the layer will be like still there by next time. My laptop's about to die, so I really want to just get a screenshot of my first ever attempt at grayscale, because this looks, again, terrific. This is probably one of the best pieces I've ever done. I am 100% going to use grayscale when it comes to stuff this detailed in the future. And the thing is, yeah, we'll probably get taught grayscale at uni when we do games art, but obviously having this experience now, having this knowledge of like what it does to a drawing, I'm going to start using it in a lot of stuff that involves this sort of technique and this amount of detail, like to the extreme. It's going to be insanity. I really genuinely love how this looks, and what we're going to do is just send this over to my phone, but I believe we also have just about hit an hour. Yeah, so perfect timing there. So once again, obviously thanks so much. Tell you what, we'll chuck this back up over that. There we go. And then we can just once again, thanks for watching. I will be back on Thursday. I hope you will have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, day, night, wherever you are in the world. Everybody is welcome here. And once again, I'm very glad that even though English may not be your native language, that you're able to understand so well. That's really kind of endearing and good to hear. And it's great feedback. And if any of you lot have got feedback about kind of audio quality or just art style, or like maybe even like experiments you'd like to see me do with art, to see what it might turn out like, then let me know in chat or socials, which again, the link's over here, so you can go check them out. There's some stuff on there that I posted earlier from previous Twitch stream. And speaking of Twitch streams, all my previous Twitch streams are over on YouTube, which is also linked over here. And on YouTube, there's a bunch of pre-Twitch stuff, because I only really started doing Twitch streams around April this year. And so there's a bunch of YouTube stuff beforehand that is essentially where the whole creature and character thing started, but it's developed into, looking back on where we started to this now, just like this specific piece, we have come so far in even just a year. It is insane looking back on stuff I used to do. So yeah, we've really incredibly refined our style, and trying grayscale now has just opened my eyes to something so much greater, which is, it's perfect. But yeah, like I said, I hope you will have a wonderful evening. And before we go, I think they are going to be live right now, but if they're not, we won't pull this raid. Just gonna try and find someone. Are they? I don't know if they are live right now, actually. So we'll try and find our art channel, and if someone's drawing dragons, I'll do a raid on that, because I love creatures and dragons and stuffs. Actually, I think it's... Why is it not letting me search? There we go. So if we try character design, yeah, no one's really live right now doing any art. So yeah, we'll just have to leave it there for now. I'll see you later. Have a good one, and Again, have a good evening, night, morning, day, afternoon, wherever you're in the world. I'll be back on Thursday to finish this. The colour is going to be insanity. I'll get this actually as a screenshot on my socials now so you can check it out in its full glory. Because, again, the camera quality from this isn't so great. But yeah, once again, I'll see you later. And one last thing. Good. If I can actually get off here real quick. And also, that's the other thing. Thank you so much for all the follows and the support of this stream as well. It's been wonderful. Goodbye. Goodbye. Say goodbye to Galactus. Goodbye, Galactus. Goodbye.